Edwina Murphy-Droomer is my name, and I want to warmly welcome you to this interview in the series that is all about unleashing the audacious woman within. Today we have with us Sarah Petty, who has built a multi-million-dollar empire around the value of putting family first. She is the best-selling author of Worth Every Penny, and I am so excited to bring this conversation to you because Sarah has done many amazing, audacious things, and she is going to talk to us today about the power of having a clear vision and the willingness to reinvent yourself. Welcome, Sarah, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to dive into this conversation because I know it's going to tap into the hearts of women that have got this little bubbling desire to build something big. But let's start with, for those in our audience that haven't had the pleasure of meeting you yet, could you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, my name is Sarah Petty, and I accidentally started my own business. I had newborn twins. I'd spent the year in the hospital, very sick, on bed rest, and I'd been doing photography just for a hobby. And I'm located in central Illinois, so right in the middle of the United States, in a cornfield. A lot of people, a lot of your listeners are all over, and people think, oh, I'm not in a big city, or I'm not wherever. In this day and age, you can do it anywhere, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So I had these two little babies. It's these two now. They're now in college. How is that possible? But I was a marketing director at an advertising agency. I had a degree in business, so I was just doing photography for fun. Yeah. And people started asking me to take pictures of their kids. And this was pre-digital. This was still in film. And after I had my twins and they were preemies, I thought, I'm just going to take a little break, and I don't want to put them in daycare because they were super little. And I want them, no germs around them like we do new moms. And so I thought, well, I'll just start a little photography business until I figure out what I'm going to do. And realized pretty quickly, that I didn't really know what I was doing, even though I had at this point an MBA, 2 business degrees, but still didn't know how to run a business. They don't teach you that in business school. So everybody who has head trash about, oh, I don't have a degree, doesn't matter. Right? Doesn't matter. That's not what teaches you. And so I had these babies and I thought, well, I'm going to rent a little studio because I don't want them under my feet, when I'm shooting. And so I got this little studio. They didn't make me sign a lease, and it was $300 a month. And I fixed it up, had a grand opening, invited everyone I knew, August 30th, 2001. So 2 weeks before 9/11. That's when I kicked off my business. And it's been amazing, right? I had to figure out I was underpriced, my system, like everything was broken. Yeah. But if you do certain things, you almost bubble proof your business. I made it through 2008 and 2009, and every ebb and flow that's happened. It's been 22 years, I think now, since 98 that I've been in business. And so I just love it. I love business. I love that it allows me to put my family first. That's the most important thing to me.
Yeah, that's a big one, and we'll come back to that. But I feel like, with everything that's going on, and this, obviously is a conversation that's relative to everybody at the moment with COVID in full swing, and the idea of starting something new. And yes, we had 9/11 and, economy crashes and all sorts of things that have happened. But this feels like something that, is really tying us all together. And the idea that we can look to people that have already done it. We don't need that university degree or whatever it is, that the next thing. I know that I've been so guilty of just always feeling like I need the next course, the next thing that's going to land me where I need to be, but it doesn't work like that. We've got to start with that little step with what we have now. So, with your starting, how did you find that daring or that boldness to take the first step? Was it somebody that you were talking to? Were you working with somebody, or where did that come from?
I think it just sort of happened
Yeah.
that I just started taking photos, and I didn't want to go back to that full-time job where I was working day and night.
Yeah.
And it was my little babies. I was holding them and they smelled so good and they were so little. And I remember having the epiphany the day when I had a client cancel, and I was kind of like, oh, I get to go home. Like if I were at a job, I would have to stay, and they rescheduled. So I went home, and I'm driving home thinking about, I just paid bills and I had money to pay the bills, but there was no money left for me. And I'm driving, I lived about a mile from this little bitty studio, had bars on the windows. I mean, it was not an impressive thing at all. But I got home and I started holding them and I was rocking them. And I remember when I just realized, like, I'm not going to work the next 15 years of their life away. That's not why I wanted to do this. Yeah. And luckily, because they're now in college, my two oldest are in college. I had another baby 2 years later. Not sure why I did that. But I it's true what you said about learning, right? Learning is so fun, but it's so safe. Yeah. If learning were the answer, like we would have everything solved. Yeah. It's about doing. Yeah. And I just jumped in before learning. Yeah. I had to just swim. I had to figure out how to just stay one step above, 1 inch above the water so I didn't drown. Yeah. And that's when I started just investing in myself and wherever I could get education. And then I would bring it back and I would apply it. Yeah. That's the key. Learning isn't enough. We have to be doing.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I talk about this so much because I just know that I was guilty of it for so long. I did a, naturopathic, I became a naturopath and I did functional nutrition, and with all this information, I still thought I didn't know everything yet. I was still looking for the next thing. So yeah, I hear you.
Well, and I did it as a teacher. So I built this photography business and people started saying, how are you doing it? And so I was like, I couldn't travel to speak at all the places that I was asked. So I created a little online business called Joy of Marketing, and I was teaching this stuff. And I created courses and I put everything like here's how you go get clients. Here's how you price. Here's how you sell. Yeah. And people would be like, oh, but I can't say that, or I can't do that. I'm like, I don't understand. I just told you what to do. Yeah. But there was no application. There was no feedback loop, which is kind of how we became a coaching company on accident. I said, I'm so sick of hearing, because some people are taking it and running with it, right? So like we knew it was good. We knew it worked. But that's what kept me up at night. Like, why are some people, they have the answers. Like I tell them, I give them templates and I make it so easy. And I just got mad about 2 years ago. And I said, all right, I'm taking a class. I had 80 students and I got live on Facebook, and I just said, here's what you're going to do first. Just do this one thing and I'll be back in 2 days. Yeah. And then I said, okay, do this next thing, kind of like GPS, right? Go 2 miles and turn right. Yeah. And they did it. And the first time through, like I made mistakes and I took their feedback and then I did it again. Yeah. And all of a sudden, each time I did it, people were, because they would do their prices and they would submit them, for example. And I would say, like, I told you what to do. I gave you the template, and not one person has ever gotten it 100% right, So obviously there's a gap between that information and then how it goes through our brain and we spit it out and it's like something different. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm such a believer. You have to apply. Yeah. You have to.
Yeah. And I mean, we can apply this to anything. Losing weight is not rocket science. We've got all the information. What's in the gap? Getting fitter is actually not rocket science. We know we want to do it. What's in the gap? And it's this piece up here. It's the often overthinking and not taking action.
Yeah, we call it head trash. You've seen a Tesla. You know what a Tesla is? Yeah. It's a self-driving car, which horrifies me. To be driving down the road, looking over and like seeing a car just going. But our subconscious is like a tape recorder, recording everything that happens in the world. Yep. And then, when someone looks at us and looks at our outfit and snickers, we tell ourselves, right? We build up this head trash, like, oh, I'm not pretty. I'm not thin. I'm not smart. It happened in high school to all of us, in junior high. And even when we were 5. And so then we get an opportunity presented to us, and our Tesla up here grabs the wheel and says, no, you're not good enough. You're not smart enough. you're not ready. You haven't paid your dues. You're in too much debt. I mean, we all have it. We all do.
Yep.
And,
We do.
And I heard Gwyneth Paltrow. I was listening to a podcast of hers, which I pop around and I try different podcasts. And she had on a psychotherapist, and he was talking about her insecurities. And I'm thinking, Gwyneth Paltrow has insecurities. Everyone listening, we all do.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the game, isn't it? Just saying to ourselves, look, like, you got what you got. The color, your hair color, your height, your weight. I mean, we can do certain things, right, to be healthy, but for the most part, we're what we are. And we might as well just accept, like, this is what I got. I'm the only one who's going to 100% be with me till the day I die.
Yeah.
So let's figure out our little machine, because we're all like little science projects.
Yeah.
What works for me might not work for you. What works for you might not work for the next person.
Yeah.
But
yeah. There's always, there is always somebody that we get to model ourselves on. You know, and I'm not talking about turning yourself into somebody else, but there are, you know, everything's just about being done in, you know, one form or another. We can look to other people for what's working. I know Tony Robbins talks about success leaves clues. So, you know, I think for the women out there that have got this bubbling idea of creating a business, it's, you know, we've seen people make multiple $1 million businesses out of a cupcake recipe or you know.
And some don't have a high school degree even.
No.
So why can they go do it?
Yeah.
And you're telling yourself you need 6 PhDs to go do it, or whatever, right? We all have this head trash. We all do.
Yeah.
And I find it fascinating because I taught my son, he was 15, this little guy in the middle, he wanted to make some money. So he created a photo booth. He went into my closet and took all my old equipment and created this little business. And I created prices for him, and he started at $750, and he didn't know any better. He's out there making money because he hadn't ever really had anybody get mad at him, or like, he just was like, yeah, this is what it is. Yeah. And sometimes I think that's fascinating because I usually work with older adults. I mean, all ages, but you know, by the time you're 30, 40, 50, you have a lot more head trash and stories you're telling yourself about why you can't do it. And that makes me so sad, because the reality is you can do anything. You really can.
Yeah. And, you know, I know for me, probably the biggest thing that made the difference was starting to surround myself with people that had that conversation. There was, you know, like, I stopped listening to you know, how could you, the pull down conversations, and instead, of course you can. Let's find a way. It's just about being resourceful. So yeah, community was everything in making the difference for me.
Huge. And we actually created a tool. Can I share it with you?
Yes, please.
We call it front pocket, back pocket. Okay. And so everybody has someone in their life who wants to say, oh, honey, they don't want to see you get hurt, right? Oh, honey, you can't charge that. And they do it out of love, right? But they don't want to see you get hurt. Like, it's inborn in us, right? To not let our loved ones take too big of a risk and get hurt or embarrassed, or heaven forbid, people talk about you because you're not qualified to start this business. And so what we teach our community is we put those people in our front pocket, our friends and our family. We love them. We keep them close to us in our front pocket. And we share with them, I have a dream. This is my dream. And I just had a success today. We share the positives, right? And then we have our back pocket. In our back pocket, that's where we have our mentor who has a system, right? I always tell people, if someone's doing it, go find them and pay them to teach you. Okay? Because your husband probably doesn't have a successful business. So I wouldn't take his advice, yet we do. Or in well-meaning people, right? Your best friend, your mother. Yeah. And then also your community. You know, they always say you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I remember when I had 3 little kids and I was going to study with different people, like digging money out of the sofa because I knew I needed that. And I remember, I lost my train of thought. I would go and I would get, and I remember saying like, I have a life, I have friends, like we're doing great. I don't need friends. I just need the answers.
Yeah.
Right. Back to like, it's not up here. It's just give me the tactics. Tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And I sat down, I remember at my mentor program now, I sit arm in arm with these people who are way bigger than me. Yeah. And I hear their insecurities and their thoughts and their doubts and the risks they're taking. And I'm like, wow. Yeah. And I realized I didn't have a community who believed what I believed. So that's who I always have in my back pocket. Yes. So you separate them. And it's a little tool when someone starts giving you advice and you know they're not qualified, right? You don't have to fight with them. You don't have to argue with them. You just hug them and remind yourself, okay, they're my front pocket people. They are the closest to my heart. I love them. I want to change this subject though, because they're not qualified to help me there. So we keep those people in our back pocket, and your people in your community, aren't they always there for you? Yeah. If you have a problem, something that's never happened, you probably have a whole community of people who are ahead of you, some behind you, right? Some are all around you, and that you could reach out to and say, I'm stuck. Can you help me? Yeah. So important.
100%. I always laugh when I hear that you're the sum of the 5 people you hang around the most. The first time I heard that, I've got 4 children. The first time I heard it, they were all little, and that was, I was a single mum. I was like, I'm a toddler.
Start sucking my thumb.
Yeah. Yes. So for the mums, we've got, mostly mums in this audience. Certainly not everybody is, but I know that conversation is a big one. Starting a business or having your own business when you've got children, specifically when they're little. So how did you negotiate that then and now as well?
Yeah, it's always really been my filter. Yeah. My dad was an entrepreneur. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and she was amazing and he was amazing, but I really wanted to be both. My mom got to be room mom. She was at everything. And I thought, I can't. And I started my first job out of college was at Coca-Cola. And I'm watching these women not get to go to their kids' things, or all the bosses, like, she left early to go to her kids' thing. And I was like, horrified at my future of letting my happiness and my ability to be that mom I want to be ruin that for me. And I was okay not being a full-time stay-at-home mom. That's a hard job. But I wanted to have the flexibility to be at everything, to say yes. When they grab your hand and they say, Mommy, are you going to be a room mom this year? Like, I want to say yes, because they stop asking. They stop asking. They're like, junior high, no, Mom, you don't need to come have lunch anymore. And so I really developed that filter of, okay, we have a layered calendar, just a Google calendar. The orange layer is my work and the blue layer is my family. And so blue goes in first, like we're volleyball. I'm 6 feet tall. You can't tell it. Played volleyball in college. My husband's tall. And so our kids play sports. Our girls especially play volleyball, and we're just volleyball people. And so that volleyball, it all goes on the calendar. And my team's very virtual. They all know not to schedule me when there's a volleyball game. Now, family first to me doesn't mean, oh, I didn't get a sitter today, I'm going to go cancel a bunch of people. Like, that's not professional. So it's hard as a mom, but you know what? We have that ability. We gave birth. Like, we were made to give birth. We can have a plan B and a plan C for childcare. And it's crazy right now in COVID, my team, I have people on my team who have younger children. Andrea, who runs my studio, we've waited like 9 years for her to come back full time. Her baby goes to kindergarten, and they're like, oh, guess what? He's coming back home. Oh, so we're just pivoting, right? We're pivoting. We're working flex shifts. We're coming in on weekends if we have to, which we really protect, but we're home all week now. So
I think we're all, having a virtual business and having everybody at home. I've got people just finishing their breakfast to get off to school at the moment. I'm not sure how much longer school's going to last. I think we're on the cusp of that shutting down again here as well. But it is just being okay. And I think, we can talk about perfection as women. Oh my goodness. But it's being okay with things not being perfect. This is, what we're doing here is just about having conversations that inspire and lift up and plant seeds of possibility and hope in the hearts of others. And whether that is teaching how you cook or teaching photography or teaching business or whatever it is that, you know, I started off teaching, having a flower farm. That was how I managed to stay home with my babies, and I could have them in the flowers with me. So that's how I did it and how I made it work. So there is no limit to what we can create these businesses from, but we need to let go of that idea of it having to be perfect and become flexible. So I imagine with a team, that's been a huge piece for you.
Yeah, we have a small team, but we have a sort of a manifesto with our core values, and that really helps us in the decision-making process, right? That paralysis by analysis or decision fatigue where we just spin, we all feel that. And one of our core values is imperfect action beats perfect inaction, right? We can stay home and be perfect all day long and nothing happens, but let's go out there and let's do it. And I try to teach my children that. I want them to go out and do and fail and learn from it. We say failure is learning. That's how you learn to walk. That's how you learn to talk. That's how you learn to ride a bike. That's how you learn to cook if you can cook, right? It's how we've learned everything. And yet, you know, that whole Tesla is picking up, oh, kids laughed at me when I did that. So I'm not going to put myself out there. And it's hard, right? So we always say, hey, let's just take imperfect action here. We'll even say it, right? This is a case where we're going to miss our window if we don't get it out. So if the video is going to be made on our cell phone instead of the good lighting and the professional equipment, we're just going to get it done and it's going to be out there.
Yeah. Absolutely. So for the women listening that have that little bubble of an idea that's in there, have you got a first 1, 2, 3 steps of where you direct people to make a start?
Well, I think the biggest thing is fill up your back pocket. Right? Find a mentor. There's never been a better time to learn from someone like all of us, and a lot of your speakers in this event are people who do that, right? They did it, they had success, and they're like, oh my gosh, everyone's asking me how to do it. I have systems for it already. Because that was the epiphany when I was holding my little babies. I thought somebody out there is making money with photography. And I knew I wasn't even a great photographer, but I didn't really care because I was like, I want to be home with my babies, and people had paid me $100. So I was like, okay, if they'll pay me $100, I can make more. And so I started seeking out that education, and that was about 17 years ago. And there weren't people, there weren't online businesses back then. And I had to go to someone who was this well-known photographer, and I drove 5 hours. I was pregnant with my third, only to find out that he wasn't even making money. So I think finding someone who's doing what you want to do, like we teach boutique, which is wall portraits, high touch. We don't teach how to sell a CD for $200 because that trades the family first. So again, if you find this person, you're like, oh, I'm going to learn from them, and you get there and they're teaching you how to sell $200 at a time, and you're working day and night, then you're like, okay, shoot, I picked the wrong one. So go to their trainings. A lot of us, we do free trainings. We have reports, we blog, we just started a podcast. So there's a lot, like find that person that you resonate with. And there are men, there are women, there are people of all ages, like find your person and start to learn from them, start to go to their events, start to be a part of their community. See, like I knew when I found my mentor, I'm like, these are my people. They're just like me. I just loved it. I just felt all at home, and none of them look like me. They're all different, mostly men. But it was fantastic. So I think that's the biggest thing, because I think a lot of people have a dream and a passion, but they don't know how to make money with it yet. So it's sort of like, who's making money doing what I want to do, and how are they doing it? That's really where I'd start.
And I know because it was certainly the biggest question for me when I took my first big plunge into coaching was I don't have the money, you know. So I know that that's coming up. I know. So to the women out there that are saying, yeah, well, that's all very well, but I don't have the money, what is your answer for them?
You know, I didn't either. And I think you have to it's a mindset, right? It's that whole scarcity versus abundance. I knew I wanted to build a life for my babies where we could go on a Disney vacation at least once. And I could tell them, you can go to college wherever you want. If that's what we wanted and if that's what they chose. And I wanted to be able, like, we got to go they've traveled all over the country. We did senior pictures in Italy last year, which I'm so grateful for, because it's going to be a while before we can go back to Italy. And we've been able to build that life, but it didn't come without sacrifice. It didn't come without, wearing the same jeans for a lot of days in a row and cooking at home and living within our means and not buying new cars and not going with every whim. And sometimes, as hard as it is, like, it's about using what we call OPM, right? Other people's money. That's what banks do. We put our money in the checking account and they take our money and they go loan it to someone else to make more money. And it's a scary concept for a lot of people, but it's when you are wanting to grow, sometimes you do have to use other people's money to get what you want. But I always figure we can always make more money, but we cannot make more time. And that's what I told all of my students right when COVID hit. I got on Zoom just like this and I looked at them in the eyes and I said, you guys, the world's freaking out. Every day we would wake up, and they're like, this city closed down and this, and it's bad news every day. And I said, look, you can spend the next however many months freaking out, crying, rocking in the corner. We can be like, all right, let's get to work, because we can't get this time back. And we had record number of students jumping into our programs. I was shocked. And we were super generous. Like, we spread payment plans way past the class, because I was like, look, I'm going to do everything I can to help you if you're willing to put yourself out there, because, like, they knew for a while they weren't going to be able to go out and do the business, but they also knew they needed this. They needed a mentor, they needed a community, and they needed the skill set to go and do it. So they were role playing, they were practicing. But I think that this is an amazing time because there are more opportunities than ever. The whole world is like a snow globe, just been shaken. Right. So life as we know it is over. And partners, we teach our photographers to partner with other local business owners. They're like, oh, I can't ever meet them. I can't meet. Go in there now. And the owner will be sitting at the front desk. So just new opportunities in this snow globe we live in.
And there's always a way. There is always a way. It's just about being resourceful. And I think as mums, we're naturally really resourceful, especially when it comes to finding things for our kids or investing in resources for our kids. But then when it comes to us, we have a different conversation. I know when I signed up with my first coach, and it was like a $10,000 investment, the first one. And I had the first payment and I started cleaning houses. It was a massive swallow of pride, I can promise. But I had such a clear vision that I needed things to change. I was sick to death of living week to week and I wanted things to change. And I knew that this was the path. So I had the first payment and I cleaned houses for a while to pay for it. And I can still remember getting in my community at the time, because it was a beautiful community, in tears. It was like, I get to stop cleaning houses. I'm finally making enough money.
Literally, that gave me chills, because people sit in pain and get a second or third job for a while so that you can get yourself out of the pain, because that's painful. But staying where you are, stuck and unhappy, and paying interest on your bad debt, that's painful too. But I was so thrifty. I traded for graphic design. I would take photos of graphic designers' kids and they would design for me. And I traded for cleaning services. Like, I would trade for anything I could. And people who don't have money for childcare, go to your friend and say, I'll keep your kids Monday if you'll keep my kids Wednesday. And then you have a free day to go work on your thing. And I think that's something that hopefully you're, or maybe something that I can share with your audience, is that, it's hard. Like, being a mom is a full-time job. And it's hard. We all put pressure on ourselves that we should be able to do it all, but we can't. So it's okay. And you have to schedule dedicated time to work on your business. And I have to tell my students that, and they're like, I'm crying, it's midnight, and it's like, you know what? It's okay. Sit down, talk to your spouse. Some are single parents, do you have a grandma? Do you have a neighbor? Can you photograph a high school kid and get a couple Saturday mornings? Like, we have to just tenacity. That's another one of our core values on our manifesto, tenacity. Like, tenacity. You just can't give up. just tenacity.
Yeah.
There's a way.
You spoke before about, you know, like wanting to take your family to Disneyland and these different visions, these different goals that drove you and kept you tenacious and resourceful. And, you know, and I just know for me that was the missing piece. As soon as I got so invested and so excited about the goal that I had, the vision that I had to bring to life, what I had to do to get there, you just make it happen.
It's so true. And you know what I noticed when I joined this higher level mastermind, and as you get higher, the price gets higher. Mm-hmm. And it's the first thing in my budget. And even if I don't have it in the budget, I'll go without eating before I'll let go of my back pocket resources. Yeah. But everybody, it's not like, did you invest in yourself? Did you buy, you know, they're all like, oh, I did that course. You're like, which ones have you done? Which ones have you done? Like the people that are growing faster, they're investing in jet fuel. Yep. Not packing a paper sack to walk the slow route. Yep. They're doing what they have to do to get on a bike, to get in a car. And there's a cost to that. There just is. The car is not free. The jet fuel is not free. And I love that's why, you know, hanging out with the small children, which I did too. Yeah. They're not challenging you in that way. So it was perfect. I could have my family here and then I would go a couple times a year and be with my back pocket community and just get poured into and inspired and realize, okay, I'm doing the right thing by spending and investing money I don't really have to grow, because that's what I did. I just kept growing.
And I think that, you know, my observation is that we always have money for what we really value. I know that when, you know, as a single mom with 4 kids, I always had money for organic food. It was, you know, as a naturopath, and like it was my core value. I wasn't going to let it go. And so all our clothes came from the thrift store, or the op shop as we call it here. And we did without lots of things, but my kids and I always ate organic food. That was my value. So I always found money for it. Now, you know, like I drive around in a fairly old car because I don't particularly value having a beautiful car, but I spend that much and more in my coach because that's what I value. So we do find money for the things we value. I'm sure that you could share experience of that as well.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we both probably invest a Tesla in our education. We could drive, and I'm with you. I could care less. Like if I won the lottery, I wouldn't go buy a newer car. I just had to trade in my 2008 because it had so many miles, and I was like, I travel a lot. I need to be safe, but I don't care. Yeah. I'm exactly like you. And I have a lot of students who, I mean, a lot of us, I wasn't raised with a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And it seems like that adds a lot of head trash to us too. Like, because what we want to sell, no one will pay that. No one has money, right? Just like we're saying, everybody values different things, but we assume because I wouldn't buy cars, that's like me saying, no one's going to buy a car. Yeah. But the other day I was talking to one of my coaching students, and I was telling her a story about how with now my mower, this is my mower, went off to college. And I told my husband, like, can we just hire a yard service this summer? Because we were both raised like we do our own, we don't pay for services, right? Because we can do them. And so we hired this mower, and they come in with a branded truck, big giant equipment, all this, and it's like $100 a week. So like, think about it, for 6 months, that's like $2,600 for nothing. They're just cutting the grass. It grows, they cut it. And I'm thinking, I see this mower all over the place. And I told this student, I said, just go follow the mower, because those people are spending money on nothing and they have nothing to show for it. Who wouldn't rather invest $2,600, have a gorgeous giant piece of artwork of their child giggling and their hair flying, or their kids hugging all day long? And so for anybody listening who's got that hang up, like people won't pay me, if they want it, you bought organic food when you were on a budget, right? Because that's the first thing you wanted. Yeah. I hate when people say, we can't afford this. No, you can afford really anything you want. It's you have to prioritize. Yeah. And you've spent that money somewhere else. So that's a very scarcity mindset. And I've been mentoring my 19-year-old daughter's friends, a big group of them. And I told them, I said, you guys can afford anything you want. Yeah. Right? But make it a priority. Don't go buying things you outside what you can afford. Save the money for it and go get it. Yeah. And if there's something you can invest, I've been just talking to them about education, because most people don't get raised by people like us who are constantly investing in ourselves.
Yeah.
We're not investing in the program or the leader. We're investing in ourselves, because at the end of the day, my students, if they decide, I don't want to do photography anymore, they've learned skills of how to talk to other people. They've learned sales skills. They've learned marketing skills. They've built relationships that they wouldn't have had, and they'll take that with them to their next thing. So the best place we can invest any money is in ourselves. I just believe that to my core.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And, you know, a big driver, you know, wind beneath my wings was wanting to role model this for my kids, to show them what it looks like. My story was a little different because I was raised with parents who had plenty of money, and I went to the best schools, and, you know, like, I had that, but I was also patted on the head and, don't worry, you'll be looked after. You don't need to be smart. Being pretty is helpful, you know. So I was raised with that. So I didn't have any real core belief that I could look after myself. I was waiting for somebody to look after me. So I found my knight in shining armor, had 4 kids, and then he left. And suddenly I was like, okay, holy shit, now it's time to grow up. And so that was, you know, that sounds crazy, but I had to work out how to be an adult and how to become hugely resourceful and create something out of nothing, essentially. So we all have a story. We've all got these layers and layers of messages that we've accumulated about why we can't or shouldn't, or who am I to think that, all those stories. But there's always, you know, like, there's always somebody that has walked that path before you, I think, is what I'm trying to say.
It's true. It's true. I heard someone say something the other day that really resonated with me. She said, we live in the results of the decisions we make. And those were our decisions. And some people were given a terrible hand they were dealt. But I see the shame and blame. We talk about personal responsibility a lot because no one's going to put on their cape and come in and save you. You're like Dorothy, right? Where the Oz, she finally gets there and he says, Dorothy, you've had the power all along. It's in you. And no one ever told you it was in you. You had to figure it out because you had no other choice. And it's a lot of people don't take the choice you took, where you're like, okay, I'm going to go invest. I'm going to figure out what I need to do. And they play the shame and blame game. So-and-so left me with debt. So-and-so took my self-esteem, and they're legitimate things that have happened. But until you can take that personal responsibility and say, I chose badly, and this is how it ended up, and now here's what I'm doing, and how can I go forward? And so when I start to see that whole blaming thing, you know, people do it in business, they do it in their personal life, and that's why that word's so kind of weird, isn't it? Self-help. It's more just like, I'm trying to figure out how I work. Like, we didn't come with instruction books. So we have to go out there and invest to figure out, like, how's my science project work? Because we're all so different. We all need different things. We all got certain things when we were kids, and we didn't get certain things when we were kids.
One of the things that I love about getting a little bit older, and, you know, like, 48 I've got a long way to go, but I just love that I care so much less about what other people think. It's been the greatest gift of getting a bit older, because if we live in that, oh my goodness, what are people going to think if they find out I'm cleaning houses? Or what are people going to think if they find out I'm a separated mum with 4 little kids? And, you know, it's so easy to shut yourself in and keep yourself, you know, protected when you care too much what other people think. So being an audacious woman and going, I don't care what you think. This is my vision. This is the woman that I want to be. This is what I want to create. Then you're on the right path.
I agree. And social media makes it even harder. We didn't grow up with social media, but now we're experiencing some haters, because every successful person is going to experience haters. It's almost like, okay, you've arrived, celebrate it. And remember, haters aren't paying your bills. So why should they get a vote and a say? And yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people were taught, you know, that's shameful. Shh, don't talk about that, right? And then that shame tells your Tesla, I'm not a good person. I shouldn't take this risk.
Yeah.
And I know Brene Brown does wonderful work with shame and vulnerability. And it was something I had never studied or even thought about. But I realized that about myself, that I don't like to talk about this stuff that, I'm embarrassed of, or I messed up or whatever. And then I realized I have to, like in our podcast, I could just go and be like, oh, look how great my life is. And it's like, that doesn't help. When I meet business leaders, I want to know, what did you screw up and what did you learn from it? And so most of mine are just telling, like, okay, like I did a mailing once early on. I came from the ad agency where everything had to be fancy, and I had it printed on fancy paper. Well, it weighed more than printer paper. And I sent the mailing and it went out to prospects, postage due. So they had to pay the mailman to get my marketing piece.
Oh, it's so good.
Talk about horrified. So I went back and I sent a whole nother mailing, and I taped a quarter on the thing. And I said, I am horrified. And if you come in, I'll do something extra special. And I got a client. It was like a $4,300 order from that screw up. And I thought, well, I'll never do that again. No. That's how we learn.
And I also know that people just love that authentic, like when you go, oh my gosh, I got that so wrong. It just makes you human and relatable. People love it.
And gosh, I don't like going on Facebook and seeing everybody's highlight reel. It makes us feel bad about ourselves, doesn't it? And I'm not a person that typically just looks at, something and goes, oh, I'm just not this or I'm not that. But like when you start going on Facebook and they're this and that, it's like, I was really happy with my life this morning. And now I feel like, okay. So I always just try to stay off social media for like comparison reasons, because that emotional energy, we only have so much of it in a day. Yeah. I don't want to give it away.
Yeah. I just, with social media, I was looking yesterday. I follow Ashley Graham. I don't know if you know who Ashley is. She's a model in the US. Beautiful, beautiful plus size model. But yesterday she was like doing a close up in Zoom. She had a big zit on her face, and she was like, I was like, go Ashley, keeping it real. I love it.
I love that. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
We're all,
Yeah.
We turn off the cameras and we,
Yeah, exactly.
Let it all loose.
Yeah, exactly. So I know that you have a gorgeous gift for our audience. Could you take a minute to tell them what that is?
I do. So I wrote a book called Worth Every Penny. And it's about how to build a business that thrills your clients and still charge what you're worth. And for me, like, stop the price race to the bottom. Yeah. As photographers, we compete with free because everyone has a digital camera. So you might as well learn you're never going to be cheap enough because everyone has a camera on them. They'll just do it instead rather than $12. Yep. They'll just do it themselves. So learn how to build a brand, learn processes and systems. So it's not written just for photographers, but if you have a photographer friend, but I think everyone can benefit from this book. So I want to give it to your audience. It was a New York Times best-selling book, which is amazing. It was overwhelming. And it's orange, like your poppies and my earrings. Yes. But if your audience, we just ask that they pay shipping and handling, but you can get this book mailed to you. It's more if you're outside the US, which gets a little challenging. Shipping is more, but it's joyofmarketing.com/free book.
Beautiful. That's perfect. I'll put a link right below our interview so that they can find that really easily. Just to, I just want to back you up on what you're talking about with the pricing, because I think that people, like, we love the freebie, we love the discounted, but honestly, we don't value what we don't invest in or pay for. So if we have a free gym membership for 2 months, you go the first time, maybe the second, and then you don't go again. But if you're invested, then you get there. And it's the same with coaching. It's the same with, if we get a free car, you don't look after it. If you get one that you've got to work for and pay for, we look after it. So don't be afraid to invest in yourself, I think, is the message that I just wanted to get across.
Absolutely. Yeah. I had a mentor who wanted to get this, and maybe you've done this too, but $100,000 coaching program. And she said, how can I look people in the eyes and tell them, because she knew she could make a program that was worth that. But she said, how can I look people in the eyes and tell them that's what I cost? She goes, so I went and I invested in someone else's $100,000 coaching program. And she does like $4 to $8 million a year now. But she did it first because she knew, if I'm not willing to do that, I'm not good. There's just that mental block about being able to receive money from others. So if you have blocks about taking other people's money and you're sitting there scared to invest your money, there's a connection there, right? It's like a river. You put a dam in the middle where the money doesn't flow and it puddles up and it gets all stinky. Like the money, invest the money, and that's how the money comes back to you. I don't know how it works that way, but it really does. The more I invest, my sales just keep going up. Because it's just like your Tesla realizes, well, you're worth it because you're investing it, so you're worth it too. It's kind of cool that way.
It works. It absolutely works. I wish there was a concrete formula that we could give people so that they had faith and understood it, but just it absolutely works. And it took a long time for me to really have faith in that concept, but I do now.
I do too. I'm a believer. I'll eat macaroni and cheese again if I have to.
Absolutely. This has just been a magical conversation. I am so grateful for your time, Sarah. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me. This has been fabulous.
Good. We'll do it again. All right. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
I always get that beautiful, bubbly sense of just pure joy and that sense of, oh my gosh, all that is possible in the world when I finish speaking to somebody as extraordinary, as generous, as humble, and as successful as Sarah Petty. So if you can take anything away from this interview, I invite you to look at the conversation that we had around success leaves clues. So whether or not you've started a business, whether or not you are thinking of starting a business can be created from anything now. Women who have journeyed as we have, as you and I have picked up skills, have picked up wisdom along the way. And now we get to create something with that wisdom and reach back and teach those that are coming behind us. So whether that is in photography, whether it's in mothering, whether it's in cooking, whether it's in making the perfect cupcake, whether it's in teaching the law of attraction and vision building, there is room for all of us, and we get to stand shoulder to shoulder and create amazing content to share with other people. Whether you are building a business or not, I hope that you feel that the value you get from these conversations is really the idea that anything is possible and we get to reinvent ourselves at any point in time. And there is no greater time to do that than now. We have been in this period of transition, this breakdown, this mushiness that has gone on with COVID. And in this space, we get to consider very carefully who we choose to be now. It's a beautiful opportunity to look at who you want to be, what you want to do, and what you want to have. Create that beautiful, inspiring, exciting vision. And then together, we get to bring it to life. All right, that's it from me today. Much love and bye for now.